Hey everyone, there were a few students who emailed me to check something specific to the data frame D3. They said that because of some previous operations they had performed on that data frame, some of the variables they required were not available anymore, and that is why they were saying that can they use the data frame D2 to do those operations. So first of all, it doesn't matter whether you use D2, D3 or some other data frame, as long as you are able to output sales and those scaled sales, right, and the mean and the standard deviation of sales. That's perfectly okay. It's up to you. However, I just want to make clear that in the homework, when I mentioned that you print out certain data frames after performing filtering, selecting, or any other operation, I literally meant printing out that entire operation. So the output should come from that operation rather than you explicitly saving all those operations or the data frame separately in an object and then print that object. It was not required. You don't have to create intermediate object like that. So here is an example. What I'm saying is that some of you probably did this. Suppose, let's assume that your data frame is this D5. D5 is basically the same as D2 in your homework. And then let's assume that I asked you to filter only the fiscal year 2018. All right, so this is going to dramatically reduce the number of observations. And then I said, well, from that, then also additionally select only, these 4 variables. So company name, GV key, sale, and cost of goods sold, COGS. And then finally use the function head to retain only the top 10 observations from that data frame. And so if I asked you to perform these operations over here, what I was expecting was that you print the output at this point. But many of you probably did this. You saved that entire operation as a data frame in an intermediate object, and then you printed that, right? So if I do this, run this dtemp, as you can see that in the global environment, dtemp now is just 10 observations and 4 column data frame. That is expected, and that is by design. And then finally we print it. Right, and now what has happened is that you have sort of like created a data frame dtemp, which has only these columns and rows. And if you plan to use this further down, and maybe I asked you to now do more operations, you said, hey, well, this dtemp doesn't have those columns or doesn't have those rows. Well, it was not expected. What is expected instead is an easier solution. That's it. I was expecting that you use that data frame D2, you perform the operations that were asked, and then just output this as a single data frame. So this is equivalent to what you have done here, except that you have now created an intermediate data frame which is not required in the homework. So when you are using that D3, any operation that led to getting D3, all the questions which were in between, creation of your data frame D2 and D3, all these intermediate questions were not expected to alter any data frames. I was just expecting you to follow this process. All right. However, having said that, if you indeed created intermediate data frames, there is no problem with that. So if you decided to go, or decided to take this route, that's fine. There is no problem. So my instructions in the homework were based on that assumption that you are just going to print out, the operation, but not necessarily first save those operations into a data frame and print that data frame. And that's the reason I specifically mentioned that D3. It doesn't matter though, right? So as long as you get that same output, it's perfectly okay. If you created intermediate data frames, you are not going to lose any points for that. And if you have any questions and more such questions, I strongly recommend that you use Slack for that, because when you ask questions publicly in the Slack workspace, in particular in homework one channel in this case, my responses to those questions will be publicly available, so everybody in the class can see them, and if they have a similar question, they do not have to wait to email me and then get the clarification. They can see for themselves what solution I provided already. Thank you.